times to zoom in. Terrible cell service, so.
Good evening. This is the Harbor Shellfish Advisory Board, Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025. I'd like to call this meeting to order, 5:04 p.m. And I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda, please.
So moved.
I second that.
Motion made by Mr. DeCosta, seconded by Ms. Mayo to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor, Mr. DeCosta,
Aye.
Ms. Mayo,
Aye.
Mr. Brace. Aye. Chair votes aye. Were the minutes out for September 2nd? No. Okay. Nothing under chairman's report. Any report from Marine Department?
She's not.
No messages?
No, yeah.
All right, natural resources. You get a text.
I got an email from Charles. I'll just
All right,
read it.
would you please, Mr. Brace? Thank you.
Okay. Town biologist Tara Riley. HSB tonight, hi all. I will not be attending tonight's meeting on 9/23/2025. I was able to listen to the last recorded meeting and am up to date on the most recent discussions. Our hatchery team is finishing up surveys related to our larval releases and oyster work from the summer, and we expect to have that portion of the field work wrapped up by October 6th. We just finished surveying second and fourth bends, and we will move into our manatee release studies next Monday and Tuesday. We are getting ready for another harbor health symposium hosted here by Great Harbor Yacht Club. Great Harbor Yacht Club Foundation starting October 18th. 1 to 5 p.m. It's a free community event focused around seagrass conservation and our new eelgrass management plan. I should have more updates for the October 7th meeting. Sincerely, Tara.
Thank you, Mr. Brace. Questions or comments? The natural resources report.
I have some questions and some comments, but I'll wait till later in the meeting when we get to new business, I guess, so.
All right. I'll move into old business. There's no public comment on Marine Department and Natural Resources report. Amendments to town shellfish regulations. And I've kept this on here related to the September 10th select board meeting where the shellfish regulations revisions were approved. But we had a speaker at that meeting, Penno Ames and his wife Sharon, and they had a couple of concerns. One was the weight of dredge. He seems to feel that 35 pounds may be a little low. And he felt that dredges could weigh about 35.5 pounds. He's concerned about how that would possibly have a negative effect. And he also raised a question about catch being taken and where it ends up, and concerned that the catch should be able to be followed by the fishermen that it is confiscated from, to see that it ends up back in the harbor.
Right, Andy. Panel's playing, or he's commenting that the dredge limit is too light.
Yes.
Don't the dredges become heavier as they get more scallops into them?
Well, certainly, but
No,
this is empty dredge.
His complaint is that we don't know if we can, especially these planer dredges, if you can build a dredge that is less than 35 pounds.
I see.
Empty, dry,
Empty and dry.
as you're correct, Pete, as you put them in the water, they get heavier. But if JC's gonna be strict and wanna weigh dredges. And you start putting these planer dredges together, when you add the stainless steel plate and the few extra rings. Even though they don't dig in. This was the problem that I had with this whole thing. When we decided. That we were gonna enforce this weight thing, so. As a fisherman, and not as a shellfish biologist, or as a shellfish warden who's never fished, you have two types of dredges. You have the traditional scallop dredge, which has a cutting bar, and you add weight to it to keep it down and dig through the grass. That dredge, when the warden weighs it, with no weight on it, is easily under 35 pounds. But depending on who the fisherman is and how big the sash weight is he adds to it, can exceed 35 pounds without very much difficulty. When you build a planer dredge, which now is a little bit heavier, but does less damage to the bottom because it's designed to push down and scoop along the bottom. That planer, the water, just think about it, just the water pushes and you increase your speed, and that dredge now slides along and it scoops the scallops, but the grass is able to go underneath it. It doesn't dig into the sand, which is why everyone loves them, because we don't have as much grass in the harbor anymore. So when you use the old traditional dredge and you add the weight to it, even with no weight, it digs in and it fills with sand. And then you can't fish as long, or you end up getting just a pile of crud in your dredge. The planer dredge will slide along the top of that, just scoop the scallops, leave the grass and not dig into the sand. But that dredge, because of the way it's designed with that stainless steel plate on it and the extra rings, because even though it's no more than 6 rings deep, the sides have extra rings. So if you count the rings from the outside ends now, you're more than 7 rings, which is in our regulations. We never settled this discussion last year. As Tara said, she wanted to study this dredge underwater, and I don't know if that ever happened. But in the meantime, at least half the fleet has switched to these dredges. I'm even having some built myself, because I'd rather tow 4 of these and catch the same amount of scallops without having to do as much damage to the bottom. If JC decides to enforce the 35-pound weight limit, we're gonna have a little bit of an issue, because trying to build these dredges and maintain them, I don't know if 35 pounds is the right weight. It might need to go to 40 pounds. So that's the dilemma that we're at. And this is something that, the fisheries evolved for my whole lifetime. We never changed the style of a dredge, but in the last 5 years, really, we've come up with this new dredge and it seems to work better. This is the old Chatham dredge. It's just a smaller hybrid design of it. Pennell was one of the first guys to ever fish a Chatham dredge. And instead of having a cutting bar in the bottom of the dredge, which is a hard metal 3/4 inch bar that digs in sand, it has a chain sweep, just like a dragger net. And that chain sweep just slides through the sand and everything scoops up over it and into the bag instead of it digging in. So, I don't, we've now adopted new shellfish regs that we may need to try to get the select board to amend right away. If it all depends on what natural resources and the shellfish warden decide they want to do as far as enforcement. That's where we're at.
So this chain is in the front and then there's a flat piece.
So it looks like a traditional dredge, but the top of the dredge has probably about a 6 or 8 inch wedge that the water hits like a wing of a plane, and it pushes it down. And underneath, instead of having, on the bottom of the dredge where the chain ring starts, there's that bar that goes across. That bar is cut out and there's a chain sweep. And the chain sweep attaches to the ring bag. So as the dredge goes through the water hits that that plate pushes the dredge down onto the bottom, and then that chain sweeps through the grass. And the great thing about it is it doesn't rip the grass out by the roots, because it's not digging in the sand.
So sorry, Bobby, if there was a weight issue, couldn't you?
The weight issue comes when, because you don't add weight to this dredge, the weight issue is the combination of the plate, which is metal, and then the chain sweep, which is heavy chain. Because if it's not heavy enough chain, it just bounces up off the bottom.
So maybe the sweep, or maybe the plate could be aluminum.
Possibly, I don't know. I mean, I know the only people I know.
I'm just thinking ahead.
The two guys I know that build them are Jimmy Sherlin and Keith Day. And Keith says that all of his are under 35 pounds, but some of the guys have gotten dredges from off island. I know I don't know if Dan Pronks had an issue with JC on the way to his. I know he gets his from the guy in the vineyard. And I know Dylan did have an issue where the dredges were too heavy. And I don't know how that was resolved. That was late in the season. See if I can.
So yes, Dylan Wallace did have his dredges weighed.
Yeah, these are sea scallop dredges, Ken. They really don't. Yeah, I mean, we could bring one in. Jimmy and his dad use them. Bruce Cowan uses them. I would say probably half the fleet now is switched to them.
Well, Tara mentioned again that she'd like to do some more studying, and she just completed these, dive surveys. And, I wish we could have coordinated, while she's in the water, actually being able to watch one of these dredges perform. So she could get a better idea of it and maybe, give a good recommendation to how it works versus the bar dredge.
Well, I know if we decide, if the town, not us, I shouldn't say we, but if Natural Resources and the Shellfish Warden decide that they're gonna tell people they can't use these dredges, it's gonna cause a holy war in the scallop fleet, because more people are using them than they are the other dredges anymore.
But what I think is, Mr. Chairman, is if Tara is definitely gonna be studying it more, then that gives us some breathing room, because then she can say on our behalf, we need to wait before we enforce because we need to study, which gives you guys a chance to use them. And you don't have JC coming down on it because she's studying.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. My concern is that they decide to go the other way, and they said, okay, until we study them, no one can use them. And we talked about this back in March.
Yeah.
So the fact that it didn't get studied this summer, and I'm not saying that they don't have a lot going on in their plate, because they do. That's hopefully, I guess we'll know more in the next month, but I mean, we're 6 weeks away from starting the commercial season, and it would be nice to have some guys to know where they're at with these.
We need to push for Tara will get a better sense of what they're doing by having people use them. So maybe we make a recommendation that this is a trial period.
So, as a fisherman who's, done this for a while, the one thing that I will say that I think wholeheartedly helps the bottom is the fact that nobody fishes more than 4 of them instead of 8. Remember, we went at one point, we said 8 was gonna be the max because guys were pulling 10, 12, 13 dredges. And those back dredges were just digging in and ripping everything out, because when you tow them in a line, they're on top of each other, and the front ones get the grass and the back ones just tear everything out. Everyone has realized, or the guys are using these, and it's one of the reasons why I'm having a set of them built, is it's more efficient to use these dredges because you don't get all the crud in them and they fill up quicker. So you just dump them, and 4 is plenty. You dump the 4 and you cull as you go. And you get your scallops just as quick without having to do as much damage to the bottom, as much stuff to go through. anyone who scallops is always, can remember a sand toe where you dump the stuff on the culling board and it turns to concrete. You're digging through it with your hands, and there's nothing worse, and these dredges don't do that. I mean, they just don't dig in, so.
Okay, with our next meeting being October 7th, and maybe it would be wise to reach out to Tara before the meeting, see if there's some type of way to get this study off the ground.
The other ones that would be very helpful here would be either Jim
Yes.
or maybe Carl or Bruce, who have been fishing these dredges for a long time,
Mhm.
because they could give us a little more insight. I've never actually fished them. I've just seen the guys using them. But the concept makes perfect sense.
But that's what I mean, is allowing you guys to use them so that then you being you and Jim being on the board, could then encourage guys to come in and tell us, how's it going? Guys that haven't used them yet, what do you guys think, you know? And then through that, we can hopefully come to a consensus where they're gonna meet what JC wants. Maybe there'll be some wiggle room and it won't be a big deal.
Now, that's the question I would like to hear from the guys that use them, because I can't remember, sorry, I can't remember did we drop the weight on the dredges with the new shellfish regs? Or was it always 35?
No, Mr. Carlson was at the select board meeting and he was able to look it up. It's been 35 pounds since 2014. May even have been 2011, but I believe 2014. And he said that number was reached after meeting with a large number of scallopers. Now, I felt it was rather unfortunate that Pennell and Sharon took this up at the select board meeting. I could see skepticism in some of the board members' faces, like, should we be approving this right now? You may have some more revisions to do. And whereas we've worked so long and so hard, and there are so many other revisions, and honestly, the weight of the dredge was not a revision that we worked with at all. So it would be nice if Pennell had come into our meetings and discussed this, because we certainly, I feel, would have addressed that. He expressed at the select board meeting that he feels, we're really not that much over. But he feels his dredges are probably
He has bigger dredges.
less than a pound over the 35, but that certainly can become an issue.
So the guys that have been fishing them, like Bruce and Keith and Jim, my understanding is that they have weighed all their dredges and they built them accordingly to be under the 35. I don't know where Pennell got his from, but I think they're Chatham dredges and I think they're heavier because they're bigger. So that might be the issue. So, I think I agree with the 35. I was part of that initial study. I think, we don't need these big heavy dredges. Let's just see, like you said, where we go with it. The shellfish updated regulations it's a pretty substantial packet, and it doesn't just cover scallop. And really, the one area in that we may have to tweak is the scallop regs. And if we have to go back to the select board in the next 6 months or in the next year and say, you know what, we've done some more studies and we realized that we need to tweak this or this, then I don't know why we couldn't do that. But the rest, it was important to get the damn thing proved, and then we can tweak it if we need to be. So
Tara expressed that this is a living document that, we can go forward with a recommendation for more revisions at any time. So that is certainly. Refreshing to know. So. It's possible, I'll talk to Bruce and Jim. Carl as well, and see if we can possibly coordinate with Tara to. Be able to see one of these actually. Working across the bottom.
Maybe we can go out in like October or on a Saturday and put a diver in the water and drag one past them and, do a before and after video survey of the bottom.
Mhm.
And then do the same thing with a regular dredge and see, compare the two, and say, okay, it's equal or it's less or more and go from there. So
Nobody's tying window weights to their dredge anymore, are they?
I don't think so. I mean, haven't used them. You don't need them anymore.
Right.
Back when the grass was
Right.
up to your waist, you
Mhm.
did,
Mhm.
but no, maybe in Matticat. And some of the, I mean, the grass in Tuckernutt is pretty thick, Warren's Landing, so you might still put weights on your front dredges out there, but
Mhm.
I don't really think so. A lot of the guys have gone to the smaller rings, and the ring bags, instead of the big 1/4 inch rings, because they're too heavy,
Mhm.
they sand up.
And I'm gonna imagine with this sweep dredge that there's really no way to fasten. A window weight, or is there still the two
You could
bars across the top?
Maybe you could figure out some way to put one on top of the planer, but I don't know why you would, because
Right.
all you gotta do is just. You can adjust how deep it goes in the bottom by the speed, and that's my understanding. The guys just say you just feel the line, and if you don't feel it, if you feel it digging, you just slow down a little. And you just get the speed to where it's bouncing like a normal dredge would do.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. All right, any more discussion on this? Adequate ditch dredging to enhance and improve herring runs. Just kept this on here, Bob, just in case there's some new information, I'd like to
I'm gonna
think,
be back on it now that I'm back here.
Yeah.
Done fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
okay. So we'll keep it on the agenda,
thank you.
all right. Any discussion at the moment?
I haven't heard a word.
Yeah.
I think we need to get to a point where we can formulate a letter to the select board.
Well, the other thing I thought is maybe we could ask, Sarah, Boyce to come in, because she is the director of. The, Lauren Foundation, and they own,
She's the research director.
right,
Yeah,
and she's also on the. I know she's on the coastal
yeah,
resilience.
she's on crack. Yep.
So I thought maybe we could have her come in and discuss with her what. What I would like to see happen at First Bridge. And see what her thoughts are and what, cause I keep hearing all this stuff. Kind of roundabout that we're not gonna do anything about the ditches and the bridges because it's part of coastal resiliency and we need to raise the bridge, we need to raise the road 9 feet. And we need to redo the bridges and. One of the things that I think should happen there is. Those bridges, when they took the old wood bridges out and they put those pipes in, those pipes were supposed to be temporary.
Mm,
And those pipes are now collapsed from the weight of the trucks and stuff. And, I really like to see a traditional wooden bridge built back there.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you can't build a wooden bridge that can handle the weight of a truck.
Mhm.
And they do them all over the country.
yes.
And, we always had wooden bridges there and that's what should go back there.
Mhm.
I think it'd be. Sarah's a good choice because she's also, as all. Members of the conservation community out here are members of the Nantucket Biodiversity Initiative, and they give out small grants to. Grad students who are doing research on species that when I say we, my business is a partnering business. In the organization deem need researching. I mean, that doesn't mean we tell them what we want, but they come in with ideas and then we vote on it. And so a couple of years ago, there was a guy who did a study of the herring in the ponds. So you might ask Sarah about that and see what the results were, because then when we have our information, that gives us ammunition to go to the select board and say, hey, we know that blah, blah, blah. And
The the other person that I thought we should maybe talk to about this, and I'll do it off. Out of a meeting, but maybe have him come to a meeting, is Dave Wright, our state resource officer. DPO, because. That's a great pond, and my understanding from him is that there has to be access to that pond for people to vote. And right now there isn't, because the way they've set up that side of the road, you can't launch a boat there anymore. But there is, I know there's a lot of grant money out there from the state to rebuild herring ponds. I mean, the Cape, up and down the Cape and the South Shore has done a tremendous job of bringing back their herring ponds. And we haven't really done anything here. And I think it's time we did, because that end of that pond, the velocity of water that flows in and out of there now compared to what it was when we were kids, Andy, is just, and it's not just that end of the pond, that's part of the problem. If you drive out to the boatyard and you look at that section of the ditch and that end of Hither Creek, it's become so shallow that the water just can't flow in and out of that pond the way it used to. And the town spent $150,000 on an S-Mass study. Did I say that right, Peter?
S-Mast.
To tell us that if you dredge the ditch and dredge the pond, you will increase the velocity of the flow in and out of that harbor, out of that pond, and it will drop the TMDLs in the pond and the TMDLs in Hither Creek and TMDLs in the harbor.
Oh, yeah, question for Bobby. Do you think, if they do build bridges, whether they're made out of concrete or, wood, and you loosen up the flow, you think the flow alone would wash all the sand out, or would you need to do the dredging?
You probably, at least on that upper end of Hither Creek, I think you'd have to dredge that because it's so silted, literally like this deep now at low tide, but, when I say I want a wooden bridge, I should correct myself, Peter. It doesn't necessarily, the pilings don't have to be wood going into the bottom, like, like
Yeah.
like the bridges on the Vineyard, when you drive on into, along the coast there and you go over like, what do they call it, White Shark Bridge there where they film Jaws. Those bridges, the water flows underneath. They're concrete pillars that you have them in Florida, they're everywhere.
Yeah,
But it would increase, because what happens now is those pipes are crushed, and even when you get a big event, where you get a moon tide, the water just can't get in and get out. It's just not enough area for it to flow. And then it's the same thing up on that shallow end, but if they're gonna dredge all the way to Hither Creek down to the boatyard. Carl and I talked about this. All you'd have to do is build a barge that's the width of the ditch. And put a little mini excavator on it and let it drag itself down the ditch, and you could dredge that thing in, a week. But you gotta get permits to put the spoils on the bank and, then you get into there's some paperwork that's gotta be done and no one wants to do it. And it's not a high priority, so. But I plan to be a little bit more of a squeaky wheel on it, so.
well, one of those squeaks should be that you don't put the spoils in the bank, you take the spoils with you, because you put it in the bank, the spoils are gonna end up back in the dish again.
Yeah, well, do something with them, but I think if you dredged it once and then once you got the flow going again, I think it would take care of itself for quite a while.
Is the Manicat ditch part of the harbor plans?
It was
Whatever
part of the
mentioned.
dredge plan, because I know when Vince came in, that was Hither Creek and at least the entrance to the ditch was part of the plan. I don't know if the actual ditch itself is,
I
but
believe pond and the ditch are part of it. Because it's the waterway
Part of which?
of the harbor plan.
Uh-huh.
Because the guy Bruce Mandel from Matticat came in and said he wanted to expand our study area, he wanted to expand it all the way on the ponds. It'd make Linda happy, but she was like trying to say, how do you say that Hummock Pond is part of Matticat Harbor? So that kind of ended it right there.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned dredge plan because we haven't heard any update on that. And That's very important. It'd be nice to know what direction that's going in, what their priorities.
You can probably get that from Jeff when he gets back.
Yeah. Okay, anything else on the Mattocket ditch? Potential intertidal oyster farming. Namely, for Sean Fitzgibbon. And any other growers that are interested in intertidal acreage. We've discovered that actually 3 already have intertidal. So it really leaves 2 not having it, Sean and Matt Herr. We haven't heard any requests from Matt being interested in intertidal. But
The other 3 have it,
yeah, I was not aware that,
because I thought that,
Simon,
came in and said he doesn't use the intertidal. Remember, he was all,
he doesn't use the winter oversight. That, which is at Hollover. He has acreage in Pockello next to Neil Bender. And that's where he's, I may not be getting this perfectly correct, but that's where he's bringing them to bleach them off, get them in the sunlight, to get rid of the algae on them before he sells them. I think they have to go back to deep water for a short time before they're sold, but he's utilizing that space and he can use it through the summer, so it's basically year-round space. This is something I think none of us were aware of. Now,
it's interesting.
you may have been emailed the map, Joe Manila. Is Jeff Carlson has put Joe Manila in charge of the oyster farming and so who has Simon teamed up with? Is it Mac or Max Wraith? And I believe he has some intertidal space over there as well. There's no more oystering going on in Toscada Pond. I was hoping to see some quahog or little neck harvesting taking place there. I'm not sure if it has or not, because I do know Jamie planted 70,000, 10,000 a year for 7 years consecutive. And he told me that he was going to begin harvesting them this year. The NSA has, not to get off subject, but the Shellfish Association has given a grant now 2 years in a row to Simon and Max to they're growing quahogs in bags. And it sounds like it's rather successful, and they're hoping to have some market size little next year. And I think this is very exciting. Not that I am at many events that have raw bars, but I've been to 4 of them this summer, and each one I asked the raw bar attendant or the shucker, where are you getting your little necks? And they all said from the Cape.
Yeah.
And I looked at them and the stomach is kind of yellow and just kind of looked a little And thinking about ours here and how pink and vibrant they look, and how much more attractive they would be if they were Nantucket little necks. And it's another it seems as though, I mean, can remember Neil Cocker fishing them commercially, Carl Sherwin fished commercially. I don't think there's simply anybody here fishing them commercially.
Jimmy Brecker was the last one, I think.
Yeah, so these guys have all aged out, and aside from Carl, Jim Krecker and Neil Cocker unfortunately are gone, and so doing it in an aquaculture fashion, what a great way to do it.
I'm not current, but Andy Roberts fished for cohogs for several years. He he backed off scalloping a little bit and more emphasized cohog. I don't know if he's still doing it.
Interesting.
But I know he has a lot of expertise.
Yeah.
If you want it.
Gosh, I never see him, but
Well, part of it now,
No, it's
part
life
of,
works.
a good section of the harbor is closed to dig it, so.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of spots anymore,
Mhm.
because the whole south side of the harbor basically is closed, that someone who doesn't have a boat can go and dig
Mhm.
Little Necks,
Right.
because that whole Monomoy shore was where everyone used to go,
Well, and the horse shed as well.
and now they can't.
Mhm.
And
First-
Albert Ave, there's really good cohog
Mhm.
along Albert Ave. Up by the big rock there and along that whole beach, so, there's lots of them in Matticat, but they're not really along the shoreline, they're in the center of the harbor. Even go to Matticat. And even in the bend, second bend, third bend has quite a few calls, and,
First bend was always best.
yeah,
Back.
but. People
Yeah.
ask me all the time, where can I go to dig coal hogs? I'm like, do you have a boat? They're like, well, no, I'm like.
Right.
The lagoon is a great point.
Yeah, well, that's it. I say, do you have a four-wheel drive? Like, well, no, we don't. I'm like, well, there's really not a spot you can go. And
Think they're still in there without any tide flow?
I don't know.
Yeah.
the other spot that used to be really good was,
Monsters.
was the outside of, Little Neck.
Mhm.
And I think that's closed because of isn't that a part of the Shellfish closed area as well? Because there's all moorings and moorings landed now, so.
All right, well, we have nothing new to discuss on the oyster farming that I'm aware of. Sean had emailed myself and Mr. Carlson several times. It seems maybe it's more, not as complicated as it seems. I really think it's up to Sean to come up with some space and make the request, and it's possible that the easiest to get state approval from would be those winter oversights at Hollover. He was hopeful for some space, which is all sand, east of Wyers Point, and which is basically the upper harbor, and he thought he had, the first thing Natural Resources asked for was, get permission from the landowner, which is the trustees of reservations. He thought the trustees, was giving him the green light, at least, locally they were, but, the, the main office turned out to be, not in favor.
Why does, if he's in between the high tide and the low tide, right?
That's what he's looking for. Right now, all he
Why
has
does
is
the
deep.
trustee, why does the landowner have to give it permission? They don't have jurisdiction over that law.
Well, that was discussed as well, and that exact thought was believed to be true. And then somewhere along the line, the big office of the trustees said, no, we have jurisdiction down to
What does
low
the
tide.
state say?
Right, I
Because
can't answer that
you
right
can
now.
fit, you can put a fish weir in the fish weir area without any landowner permission. You can hunt, fish and fowl along that land without any landowner permission. So I don't know why you couldn't put a cage in there with oysters in it
Mhm.
without a landowner permission.
Mhm.
And that seems like, I think the trustees are overstepping their bounds. It'd be one thing if he was accessing it from through their property, but
Right.
if he's coming up by boat
Mhm.
and he's accessing it by boat and not through their property, I don't know how they can stop him from,
Right,
it seems to me like that's a jurisdictional.
yeah, yeah. And honestly, what it boils down to, at least for me, and I would like to think the rest of the board would feel the same way, is, you've got three farmers that have this intertidal space and two that don't, and it just doesn't seem fair. All the farmers on the Cape, according to Mr. Franzuto, are all working out of intertidal space.
Well, I think this is a fight that Sean needs to be fighting. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll support him on it, but it's not I don't think it's up to us to push this issue for him. If he wants to push it, I'll back him 100%.
Mhm.
And we'll get, we can request. Clint, jurisdiction from either the state or from town council on whether or not. Who has authority to determine what happens between the intertidal zone. I think it's a slippery slope. If we start letting landowners tell us what we can do in the intertidal zone. I don't think we need to go down that road ever, it's one, like I said, if he's coming up from a boat. And he's leaving from a boat, one thing if he was driving up the beach, but, I don't.
Wouldn't make sense for them to drive up on the beach in a long haul to
Right,
go through the glades and come around and.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I just, I mean, I've had these issues with. Yeah, I don't wanna get into it, but I think this is Sean's fight and we'll support him. Next time I see Sean, I'll try to bring that up to him, but if he wants to push it, I think he should,
yes,
because
yes.
just being told no by some board that isn't even on Nantucket.
Mhm. Well, it's a powerful board, but it's really, I would think that. What's the chain of events? And I think he's a little confused on how the chain of events takes place. State approval first. Natural Resources Department approval first. Landowner approval first. I think he was led in the direction, we'll get the landowner permission first. And so now he's kind of met this stumbling block and he himself said, well, how about I go back to, the space that's already allotted. It's intertidal, but it's winter over only, which really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But there was an inkling from Natural Resources that would possibly be the easier route to go with the state. And to getting year-round approval use there. Anyhow. Give Sean some encouragement, if you wish, and I feel the same way. I just, like I said, I'd like to see a level playing field. I think that's what it really takes to survive in this business. So. Any more discussion? On that topic, intertidal oyster farming. Eelgrass management plan. Did you have something on this, Mr. Brace?
No,
No,
it was
Okay. That would be-
adopted, right, by the select board,
sorry,
adopted it. They approved it.
would that have been at the September 10th meeting as
Yeah.
well? Yeah. I believe so, yes.
Yeah,
That was the first thing discussed, and I walked in probably 10 minutes late. Okay,
well, it sounds like that symposium that Darrell's gonna do is gonna be on the 18th
mhm,
at Gregory Yacht Club. That'll be a good place for all of us to be.
yes. I
And I'm sure
agree.
she'll tell us about it at the next meeting.
October 18th, 1 to 5, yes, we can announce that at our October 7th meeting. New business. Harbor plan,
Yeah,
well, did
well, I
Mr.
mean,
Franzuto
he told me to,
forward something to you, or?
he didn't forward anything, he just told me to update, and so basically what's happening is we are going through the draft plan. And making changes based on what the public said at the August 14th public input meeting, as well as emailed comments from the public as well as the town. So Libby, anybody that had a comment about the plan as it was created, the draft plan, we are then trying to make those changes or discussing, so. And we have one more meeting when we do that. And then there's a 60-day. So. there'll be a period of time where it'll go to the coastal zone Massachusetts Office of Coastal Zone Management and be reviewed by them.
And it comes back to us for a final draft,
Right,
and then we all make final public comments, and then it gets adopted.
yeah. Hopefully the select board say yes. Yeah,
Well, I've perused it. I figured I'd wait for the final draft before I start making noise about it.
Emily Molden sat down with Sheila and went through it line by line, everything that concerned her, and helped her understand it. And
Help Sheila understand.
help Sheila understand it, and then got input from Sheila about, yes, this is right, no, this is wrong. So Sheila was given a chance, a full chance to really comment. And she, she was, well, we're on public television now, but she was to have been at a lot of those meetings, and she wasn't, and we all know how busy she was, so we understand that, but she was to have been there to help. Especially in the section of boating and navigation. So I think that's the reason Emily did that, so that we made sure that she saw it, and yeah, so. But really, urban harbors, I think they do a fantastic job. They really drill down, they listen to us. And there's Linda, and she's not letting anything by, so we make sure that it's all right. So it's my first time being on something like that, and it's an exhausting bit of work to get it done. And I know when it's done, there's gonna be people that are like, oh, how come they,
Well, she literally sent it to me like August 15th and then called me on August 17th and said, have you read it? I just laughed.
Yeah.
Like, no, I haven't even opened the email, and I'm
Yeah.
fishing 15 hours a day, But I do, it's on my list. So I have some time, it sounds like, so.
yeah,
I feel pretty comfortable with a group of people, you, Dave.
and Dave, there's the major player, and I think it's one of the reasons he stuck around on Shab,
To get it done.
so that he'd be a part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else from the harbor plan? Okay. Our last agenda item under new business harbor plan, I'm sorry, Mariah Mitchell and Graydon House offering a recreational scalloping weekend. You can go out with Captain Bruce Beebe and do some recreational scalloping, and there's been a concern raised that this is a commercial, turning a recreational event into a commercial event. There's been another man on social media offering to take people scalloping, and he'll even shuck them and cook them on the beach for you.
There's nothing illegal about any of that.
Sure.
Yeah, I took guys, I've taken people, push raking for money. Smitty has, the yacht club does it. They buy their license, they catch their 1 bushel of scallops. The captain, if they do it by boat, the boat has to have a captain's license. It can't just be somebody driving the boat, but. It's no different than, taking someone duck hunting, and they paying you to shoot a limit of ducks. They're not getting more than their limit, they're only going on the commercial, on the days they're allowed to go. So it's, yeah.
Fair game.
Yeah. Bruce has been doing it for years.
It's a good thing. I mean,
Yeah,
I know
it
that,
promotes the fishery, it really does.
there's a bit of a stink about it, and I know that certain lobster fishermen have such, a complaint about it, but, there's the Mariah Mitchell Association right there. They're not gonna be.
So I've done it
Yeah.
for 3 years now. I supply the waders and the looking box and the pickup stick, and they go to the town, to the police department, and they get their button, and I don't let them on the boat until they got their button. But I educate them, so they go out and they pick up their scallops, and then they come back, and I make sure, okay, this is a seed, this is an adult, this is what you can keep, this is what you can't. We throw them back, then I give them a shucking lesson, and they all shuck, they go home with their scallops and they shuck them, and they love it, and it's a way for people to understand about the fishery without. The last thing I wanna see is somebody just go out, buy a pair of waders and a push rig and take a whole basket of seed because they
Mhm.
don't know the difference.
Yeah.
But
No, I was just-
Brian Mitchell's been doing it for a while.
Right, and so Great Harbor does it with all their members.
Yeah, Bob Kennedy was doing it,
Yeah.
taking people out lessons and,
Smitty takes like 20 people on that first weekend of October and they go push raking all over the harbor.
you gotta figure that it's, there's a lot of newbies, right? And they're getting a ride out to where they are. They're gonna go that 1 week and then they're not gonna go again.
Right.
Probably some of them will go again, maybe, but, it depends on the weather. And that's their experience. They had it and they had a good experience and they got it from you and they got it from whoever.
And they were
And
taught the right way to do it.
yeah, I don't see a problem with it.
In
Okay,
fact, when they did the Scallopalooza or whatever it was in March,
Mhm.
the only two people that identified the four different scallops correctly were Jimmy and myself. No one else could tell the difference between a big seed, a nub.
Mhm.
We were the only two to get the four right. Says something.
It's difficult, and I was just gonna say, that's probably the best part of giving these type, I'll call it a tour. Is learning from the fishermen want to
Yeah,
see,
like Bruce does a
Decide for the
phenomenal job.
Yeah. I'm sure he does, I'm sure he does, yeah.
He wants to, if the Graydon House wants to. If they're gonna, I don't know if they're gonna cook the scallops for them,
Mhm.
that has nothing to do with us. That's-
Right, no,
That's the Board of Health issue.
no,
The Board
my,
of Health can get involved in that,
my only issue is just hearing through the grapevine that this is turning a recreational event into a commercial event, which would be illegal, but,
That's, that's a slippery, so that's like saying Peter can't take a walking tour, or somebody can't take a biking
Yeah.
tour because it's a recreational thing,
Yeah. yeah.
As long as they all buy the license,
Mhm. Certainly.
I
gotta have
mean,
a
a
license.
perfect example was, Nantucket by Water, Rachel's, before they closed the horse shed to clamming,
Mhm.
she would do
Taking
clamming.
people cohogging, yes.
And then people would go up there and get
Mhm.
20, 30 quahogs.
Mhm.
Now she does oyster tours, they go to the oyster farms and they learn about oyster farming, I think it's a great educational
Yeah.
tool.
Yeah,
It's not like there's 500 people doing it every Saturday or
Right.
Sunday, whatever day we can go.
Yeah, there's only so many good days.
Yeah.
Who knows what the weather's gonna be like,
And
so.
tide's gotta be right, cause they don't wanna go at 5 in the morning. They want-
okay, we have anybody on Zoom from the public? No,
We have,
any public comment,
we've got, John Gardner.
all right. Any public comment on tonight's meeting? Mr. Brassfield, I'm sorry. Please, give us a short explanation of what you would like to discuss. I should have had you on the agenda so that you could have more time, but I
Well,
don't, so.
I don't think I didn't have anything specific to discuss. I was just here to get updated on these kind of things that you all do a wonderful job at. Before I approach the chefs, which is my market, which I usually start doing around the end of September, I like to get an idea on what kind of prospects for the harvest look like and what issues there might be. Because the first question they're gonna ask is, what does the harvest look like, and any idea of the price? So I'm just trying to learn, and
Mhm.
I need to start talking to my fishermen about what happened in the market last year and to try to work together to be prepared for this year. There are a lot of things that we're not used to that happened in the market starting, I think mostly caused by COVID. One of them might have been coincidentally starting with COVID, but it's a different world out there in the high-end restaurants that can afford scallops.
Yes, and
And that's impacting our fleet, because of this, I'm getting ready for my 36th season. And up until COVID, if you were lucky enough to have a fisherman that would sell you scallops, you had to take everything that they caught, whether you particularly needed them or not. You might have freeze some, but starting with COVID, as Bobby can tell you, it's kind of a fishing to order business now because of adjustments they have had to make, mainly rising cost of food, rising cost of staffing restaurants, and something, the one that, I still know the least about, but it's trends in food. It's like a fashion kind of a thing. There was one new restaurant that got 3 Michelin stars at the end of 2024. It wasn't a French restaurant, it was a Korean restaurant. And the Korean restaurants are getting very popular, and other non-traditional cuisine styles, and it's not been good for us. Not been good for us at all, and it's a very serious one. A lot of the high-end restaurants went out of business. My business was way down last year. And I'm trying to cope with doing my little part in making the fleet sustainable and making it worthwhile, and yet, as chefs and managers of restaurants tell me, at some point, we put them different fish on the special or on the menu, or maybe even not a fish. So it's for our little industry, it's a complicated thing. It's pretty tricky.
it sounds like it has been, and from what I've been told since I get on the board, we're not really supposed to concern ourselves with the price of scallops, but honestly, the price of scallops is what sustains the fishery. And we are certainly concerned with the survival of the fishery. And let's face it, during commercial season, the price has everything to do with the survival of the fishery. And to see the price get dropped the way it has in the past couple of seasons, for me is it's tearful. And it must be for the fishermen as well. And it seems as though some fishermen have been able to network and find themselves some different markets. And I don't blame them for doing so. And if you're sticking it out here on Nantucket to help some of these fishermen get a better price than what the fish markets are holding over their heads, so to speak, then all I can say is thank you and keep doing what you do. I have a hard time understanding why they're so difficult to sell when they're such a trademarked item. And as you mentioned, specials, other buyers have mentioned how it's not a steady, they're not available on a steady basis. So a lot of restaurants don't want them. And well, what happened to specials?
Well,
When you have them, run them as a special. When you don't have them, then they're not on your menu.
yeah, but they, like, everything's easy when somebody else has got to do it. So the restaurants, for some of them, that would work just fine. But others, they cannot live with erratic. They either can or don't want to. They cannot live with erratic. I would say half of them can't live with erratic. They want to know, all right, week after next, we got these plans, we got this. And then this is, if we can't count on them, we just don't want to fool with them this season. And another big factor in this, and before I say this, I want to say something that needs to be heard. I have not been involved very much with the Shellfish Association. But from my experience there, I have been told that they work for the fishermen. And I would urge them to put a little more emphasis on working with the wholesalers because of you know, if they don't get sold. There's no, you know, there's no point in fishing. And we're all in this together,
Organization.
we're all in this together.
I believe that that organization should really be focusing more on marketing our products than what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, it's part of the mission. And
It's a small part that they don't seem to want to do.
I don't, I think they need to be, the awareness needs to be raised. I think, what is happened with the NSA is, they have a whole lot of topics they're working with. And there was discussion, in the recent past, about trying to get a co-op together. I think the co-op is gonna be difficult to get, all fishermen involved
I don't
in.
think so much as they need to do a co-op. I mean, we're getting way off topic. You and I can have dinner or beer one day and discuss this, but, I've been having discussions with people that remain about, I mean, this is right up their alley. And the Shellfish Association and Remain should really be doing some type of joint thing. And
The other thing I wanted to say, ladies and gentlemen, we also have to take into account the varying harvest of the other areas for bay scallops. And that impacts us a lot because they don't have to give it a Federal Express, you know, they put right truck and take it down the road.
if East End has scallops, like they've done the last 2 years, East End has a deep water fishery, 20, 30 feet of water. They fish in big boats, 40, 50 foot,
You mentioned
like
that,
my size
yeah,
boat.
with a big dredge.
Yeah, like a mini sea scallop dredge, 4 foot dredge, one dredge.
Wow.
And they are 10 bushels per man, two limits per boat. Those scallops go into a truck, they get trucked into Bedford, they get shucked into Bedford, and they get shipped. They pay for them in the shell. Wow, just take the boxes and dump them into totes and they weigh them up and they get paid per pound in the shell.
Wow.
And that fishery, then that Red's Best, who doesn't buy any Nantucket scallops, buys those scallops and they buy some vineyard scallops, but most of their scallops, if East End has a good set,
What are they labeled as?
Cape Bay scallops.
Yeah, cause I never see them in the store.
Well, they're all over, they ship them all over the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like all the Boston markets have Cape Bay scallops.
And I've always, I mean, the NSA years ago trademarked the Nantucket Bay scallop and when you go to Whole Foods in Providence, Rhode Island, say, Nantucket Bay scallops, $49.99 a pound. And I often wonder, are they Nantucket Bay? Or you never see Martha's Vineyard Bay scallops in the store.
There's a couple things Ken, I sell to Ken and his ability to move the scallops is harder, excuse me, but it's also part of the problem with this fishery now is we can't even find openers.
Right.
I mean, half the scallops get opened by the fishermen.
Yeah.
Because you can't find an opener to open your scallops. That,
Right.
20 years ago, 10 years ago, you just dump them on the bench and walk away.
Mhm.
Now you're begging people to open scallops.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's gonna be the demise of the fishery quicker than anything,
Boy.
All
right.
Guys can't get them open.
Well, I don't wanna beat this up right now, but it's certainly a discussion to have again. I am on the board of directors of the NSA. And the reason I stay there is to be a connection between Shab and there, and I really am passionate about the mission, and I'd like to think the rest of the board is too. And really all it would take is to spark this at one board of directors meeting and it can come off the ground. So, do you have any snippets or bullet points
Yeah.
that I can take to a meeting with?
We'll have a beer. and
All right, good.
Go through
Good.
things.
Okay, I'll let you know when the next board of
I
director meeting
might, I might
is.
come.
Good, good.
Yeah.
Great,
If it would be helpful, I'm also willing to go. If you
Okay.
want to let me know.
okay, I will. Great. Thank you. anything, anybody can think of right now to have, on the agenda for the next meeting?
I have two things in.
Mhm.
One is the app.
Yes,
We're coming into November
Yeah.
first, and if we don't have an app that has the temperature on it, my head's gonna explode. You know,
okay,
this is so ridiculous. Here we go again. We talked
right,
about this
right, yeah,
back in March, and oh yeah, we're gonna put something together. I just want a simple app that has the temperature on it with the
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
The time, so everyone knows what time it is to throw a dredge, the temperature at that time, and the ability I would love. I don't even care if this happens this year, but the ability at the end of the day to put in my shellfish number and how many boxes I caught. So so Tara gets instant reports.
yeah,
And she knows,
Yeah.
okay, as of today, this is how many scallops were harvested. And it's gotta be, I can't believe that they can't build this or get someone to do it or find one.
Well, we haven't had an update in a really long time.
Yeah, so
they
maybe Jeff's already
could have worked
done,
on it.
yeah, exactly, so that's, I wanna put
Yeah.
that on the agenda. The other
what
is,
do what do we call that, app for, temperature and catch report?
yeah, yeah. And then, the other was, I don't know. Maybe I missed it, did we get an update on the surveys yet as to what what the scallops look like?
No,
Cause,
She did say though. Never mind.
I've
well, no,
gotten,
she just completed her surveys.
Okay. so hopefully we'll get it at the next meeting, but,
Yeah.
I've gotten stopped by at least 10 guys who wanna start at 6 boxes. Because of what Ken just said, that November, December is when the bulk of the fish people want the product.
Mhm.
And we've seen it now 3 winters in a row where after January, the price drops to nothing
Mhm.
and the scallops can't be moved. And even if it's a moderate season. Everyone's kind of under the same attitude that they'd rather catch them in the first 2 months when they're worth something.
Yeah.
And catch them later. And the other reason I think we should start at 6 boxes is because. Last year, and I'm assuming the same thing's gonna happen, JC was very strict with the level boxes with a
Mhm.
stick. And
Mhm.
when you take a stick to 5 boxes. It knocks quite a bit of weight off the
Mhm.
box, so just go to six level boxes, everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
And it just, you get the weight you need to make money.
And is it safe to say, there isn't a fleet of guys who are just in it for November, December, as they used to, when there were 150 boats out there, you had masons and
I'd
carpenters
say
fishing
you
till
lose
9 in the
about
morning.
half of the fleet after January.
Yeah,
Not so much because of. Well, a couple of factors. One is the price.
Mhm.
That's a big part of it.
Mhm.
Two is the fishery slows down.
Yeah,
But in reality is the majority of the guys that are still fishing over the winter would prefer the fleet to shrink at that point because.
Yeah.
If all 40 boats or 40 guys or whatever number of guys we have are fishing in January. It really drives the price down, so they get a few less. Few less guys, like it seems to like the last couple of years, the same thing happens is. January 1st rolls around and nobody wants scallops and the price goes in the toilet and you get a week or two when. You can't even find anyone to watch them, like I got scallops up to my nose, cause as soon as the holiday's over, everybody goes on a health kick and nobody wants to eat anything. That's bad for them, so it's just whatever, and then about the 15th. You start to call your buyers again and like, yeah, I can take some, and then it slowly ramps back up, but. It ramps back up for the guys that go all winter.
That,
So,
that period lasts about a month.
so is that your second agenda item to?
yeah, it's to talk, let's talk about the
Rename,
6 box
yeah.
thing, even though I can't talk about it. But I like to see the board talk about it because we have to go to the select board to get them to adopt it, because I think it automatically went back to 5 boxes retroactively, right?
I
After,
don't know.
well, that's the other
Yeah,
question is,
yeah.
did we stay at 6? Or was that just for
It
last
was
year?
probably just for the season, yeah,
Cause last year we didn't get going on that till almost Thanksgiving.
right,
And we had to go in and ask for an emergency meeting and they weren't happy about it.
yeah.
I'd like to see that not happen again. Cause the holidays is one of the time periods when you can move
Absolutely.
the most amount of product.
Yeah. Anything else? Okay. Then I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second that.
Motion's made by Mr. DeCosta, seconded by Ms. Mayo to adjourn tonight's meeting. Any discussion? All in favor, Mr. DeCosta?
Aye.
Ms. Mayo?
Aye.
Mr. Brace?
All right.
Chair votes aye as well. This meeting is adjourned at 6:14 PM.